Today, we have a very special guest, Jamaican born Ebony Stone, the artist whose music and message has cut through societal norms with incisive lyrics and bold compositions. In this episode, Ebony dives into her latest projects and delves into the themes of empowerment and resilience in her music, tackling issues such as racial inequality and personal freedom. She shares some stories from her life that have fueled her lyrics and offers a deeper understanding of some of the challenges she's overcome and the triumphs that she's now celebrated. Join us as we explore how Ebony's artistic expression not only challenges but inspires, providing a pathway for personal and community healing. Recently, Ebony and I got to spend some time together, both at the 7th annual Hamptons Cannabis Expo and at Ohika Castle for a cancer fundraiser, where we were able to put on our best Gatsby attire and dance the night away and get ready for an exciting collaboration that we will tell you about very soon. Hi there, and welcome to another Psych and Hip Hop. Today, I have a very special guest, the talented and vibrant Jamaican sensation, Tanisha Lewis, known by her stage name, Ebony Stone. And pretty sure she was destined to become the star that she is today. Welcome to
How
the
are
show.
you? Beautiful. How are you? Thanks for
I'm
having
doing
me. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's start in an easy place. Let's start with today, right? Let's talk about today and what you're currently working on and excited about.
Well, right now I do have a single out called The Trump Effect. It's very it's current. I wrote it a couple years ago. It's current and it's touchy and it's nerve jerking, so it might offend, certain people. I did touch on a lot of topics, race, religion, just stereotypes and kind of like saying whatever I want and not being conscious of anyone's feelings. And when I didn't mean to call the song the Trump Effect, but I wrote it. And then when I finished writing it, I was like, you know what? This is kind of like, the Trump effect. Nobody's seen me coming, but I'm here and everything I'm saying is true. It might hurt feelings, but it's true and it's refreshing. So.
Well, first of all, thank you for stepping up and speaking your truth, which is not easy in a nation divided by class and race and religion and gender expression, all the things that we're wrestling with as a nation and globally, where being who you are is already a challenge and a risk, right? And then speaking about it openly, recording it, promoting it is another thing. So that's quite brave. Is there anything there you want to share that was like a catalyst for maybe just pick one of the categories, like religion or something, in terms of where you said, well, it might offend some people, but what was it within you that made you want to express these truths?
It was just how I see it from where I'm standing. You know, as far as religion, I just I just feel like how do I feel about religion? I feel like it causes a lot of separation, and I do see the positive side of religion that it gives people order and kind of gives people some kind of source to believe in outside of them, So, I mean, it's good and it's bad, but whenever I write anything about religion or race or anything, it's just seeing it from my point of view. It's not a right or wrong, thing. It's just how I view it.
That's awesome. So you've had a journey from Kingston to Baltimore, a couple famous people out of there,
Yeah.
both spots, but especially that. And obviously, there was a lot of influence there, right, from both places. So, can you describe a little bit about your early life in Jamaica and then what that was like to move to the US and how that shaped your musical style?
Yes. Well, okay. Well, so my dad, he basically, he was a producer in Jamaica in the 70s, and he worked with a lot of well, I don't know if you know Junior Reed. He's like one of the big ones that he worked with. Like the One Blood song that you hear every time you see like the Jamaican commercial. So he worked with him, like Half Pint, like a lot of like Jamaican artists that you probably wouldn't know. And then basically we came here and my mom came here with us. It was me and my mom at first, and then my dad came. But while my mom was here, when I was really young, my mom got murdered along with my dad's sister and my dad's god sister. And it was me and my two younger brothers in the house. And they basically, the guys came in and they murdered all of them, and we were all there. And then my dad basically, he was somewhere, he was in the hospital at this point. So like my trip from from Jamaica to America, it was kind of like bittersweet, and it did like influence my music and like my character period a lot. And I went from like living in a house with like my mom, she was a fashion designer. So I went from living in a house like filled with music and fashion and just a lot of love and just diversity. And I went from there to Maryland, from Baltimore, from New York. So it was Jamaica to New York to Maryland. So then when I get to Maryland, I actually end up living with a family that was also into music. And they basically recorded with the Wailers, Bob Marley, and like they were more like the instrumental side. So there I started going to church every Sunday, and I got a lot of music experience from church as well. And just a lot of just a lot of spiritual guidance, and that's what I needed, right? So I go from my house, I go from a loving home, thank God, by the grace of God, my creator. I go to another home that's just as loving, of course not equal, but just as loving, and like that perfect balance of church, education, and then like a loving home, right? And then of course the music and the arts and everything, right? So there I get counseling, mental counseling from an early age. We of course get split up, me and my brothers. So one brother, he's in Canada, not of course getting the same kind of what is it, like pruning that I'm getting, to face the world. And my little brother, the baby, he's with my grandmother. He was at the best place he needed to be, right? So now me and my brother, we're in two different separate homes, and you see the outcome later on in life as far as mental health goes, and just taking on the world and everything. So in that home, I end up going back there when I started college, which is Coppin University in Maryland. There, my god sister, well, it's not really my god sister, but that's what I call her. It's like my sister. That's the home that I got, one of the homes that I got raised in. Just yeah, one of them. But I always speak of this home because it was the most significant and the most special home. And it was like if I didn't go to that home immediately and anywhere else, I probably wouldn't be who I am today. You know what I mean? It was very important because the first thing they put in me was God, you know? And not saying that my mother didn't, because I learned my prayers and I knew about God and my family. I grew up in a very spiritual family anyway. But it was a different kind of spirituality versus to religion now here at this home, right? So I get to college. I'm writing in school all along. I love writing, expressing myself. My god sister, she's doing an album. She can't talk Jamaican properly, so she calls me to come to the studio to just speak Jamaican on it. So I go in and I speak Jamaican on it, and then the producer's like, you have a really good voice. You should come in and try like write something. And then basically that's really how I started like doing music. But during my music journey, it was a lot. Like it was a lot. It's definitely the devil's playground, and it's a lot of course, it's a lot of sexual abuse. Now you see it in the media. It's crazy. And it's it is it is sacrificing and spiritual work and a lot of like dark magic that happens behind the scene. Of course, you know that. And yeah, pretty much Maryland, Baltimore, it was rough. It's a beautiful place. It's beautiful, but it's also like a rough place. Like if you don't have like a strong foundation and just like even if you have a strong foundation and like a good upbringing, you can still fall loose, you know? It's just a lot of it looks like it's designed. It almost looked like a science experiment. It's almost like a science experiment. Really, like I can get into it, but it's gonna be so weird, and I don't want to like weird your guests out. But even like these little blue lights, like they put like these little things in the corner of certain neighborhoods, and you see like how the spirits and the people like arouse, and they start like okay, I don't
It's
want to spoil it, but
yeah, or orchestrated. I mean, orchestrated by design. Just like every environment, the people in power create the environments for everyone else to live in or create in or work in. It's the same in corporate America. It's the same in low income housing, Section 8. It's the same in everywhere where, I mean, it sounds a little paranoid, but right, that's what you don't want to sound like. But it's engineered for a certain kind of response. Or if it's not by design, it feels like it just happens that way. Like you said, some things about certain lighting or certain things in the industry when you have certain success, how you celebrate it, what you're invited to, what drugs you're offered, whatever, what trip you're, getting shown, whatever it is, there's always something with it that's kind of behind the scenes. And I appreciate that you said it doesn't matter what you come from. When I'm just trying to also breathe because I didn't know the depth of what had happened to you. I just read about a tragedy. I didn't quite realize what it was. So I'm also trying to keep this interview going, but I'll be honest with you, I was a little bit like um losing your family like that is there's really no words. And the fact that you're here, I appreciate and understand what you're saying, even with more depth than I even imagined. And I think some other folks as well. And I think I wouldn't wish that for anyone, but the fact that you have some childhood trauma of the most deep kind, and these are the things we're speaking about. We know that there's probably some other things, obviously, where we read the headline news right now that happen in the industry. You're a beautiful woman, and it just is. And the fact that you're able to still use your art to express yourself, to feel bold, to, as we started the show, stand up and say what you feel, even if it might not be the thing that everyone wants to hear. So I just want to applaud you again, human to human, as a parent, as a female, as just, another person on this planet, that you're getting up every day and doing what you love, I hope, and sharing it with the world and showing everyone that your story doesn't have to be written for you just because things happen to you or at you, especially when you're young.
there you go. Thank you, Natalia. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I have more questions. I just literally had a moment of like, oh, don't, I should have to do the interview and this is all recording. I don't know if we're going to keep it in or not, but, um, you know, uh, yeah, that was a lot. So let's shift gears. I'm not laughing. It's like a nervous laugh. Okay. Um, yeah, thank you. Thank you, for doing this. Okay, so this is gonna be like a sort of cheesy one, but we'll break it down. So obviously, we sort of hit on the music industry in general, and especially within the world of hip hop. There's a lot of demands. I mean, I think some people think it's also like just have fun. We're going in the studio, and then we're going to a party, and then going to a club, and like that it's actually incredibly demanding. And so I was wondering if you could talk about some of maybe the wellness or mental health or addictive or any other challenges on the journey that were less about some of the predatory practices, but more about the actual work that you had to put in and to balance that with life and schooling and all the things.
Yeah, actually, it you lose a lot of special days. Um, I I got pregnant with my son in college, so I did lose a lot of birthdays, and a lot of time go by, and you're like, shit, like, oh, sorry, yeah, and you're like, like, what happened? Like, how does he look? Like, does he look like he aged? I'm sorry. You don't know when that happens, and like, you just having to constantly smile and constantly hear like, this is too small, this is too big, you might have to fix this. Like, I got told a lot that I was too dark. Like, that was a big thing, like colorism, in like the black community. So like, I got told that I was too dark, which, if you're on the darker side, you're seen as like unattractive. So I got told that, and of course I would constantly like break through these barriers, and I just I just felt like, oh yeah, all right, I'm gonna go in there and I'm going to knock every light skinned girl, white girl, Chinese, Indian, Spanish. I'm gonna go in there. Everyone's gonna be in awe with me. Watch. And I had that attitude, and then it worked. Like, it started working. It worked. So I
You
just,
had to you had to believe it for yourself, right?
what
And
it is. I'm sorry. I don't mean to cut you. I'm gonna
no,
tell you.
no.
I'm gonna give you the gem. When my mom used to get me dressed, my mother was very light. So my dad is very dark. She used to tell me every day, like constantly. She never just said like, you're beautiful. She used to tell me like, yeah, like, it's a pretty black gal. Like, in Jamaican, that's like saying like, you're a pretty dark girl. And she used to tell me like I was the prettiest person in the world. So like, until I was 15, even though she died, I still didn't know that I wasn't the prettiest girl. Like, I really, it
No,
came
you are. It's not that you weren't, it's that you didn't know you would be told.
right, so, but things like that. And you said not predatorial stuff, but the predatorial stuff really plays a lot on your psyche and your self-esteem. And then, a lot of times, because of those stuff, and along with not getting accepted for like, your outer appearance or whatever, but because of certain things like that, you do fall in certain addictions, whether it's drugs, whether it's alcohol, whether it's just not knowing your worth and just accepting certain things and allowing certain things to happen to you, so.
Yeah, and that's a lot as a parent to have that guilt of, "I missed his this, I missed his that." As a working parent, a lot of people can relate to that, where you have to make tough choices and always feel kinda guilty and always like you're not the best in your performance and you're not the best in your home because you're having to compromise or make choices, like you said, and that's eviscerating on one level. All the things that it brings up from your past and childhood with when you have a child, it's often the time that the relationship with your mom, comes back into play in some way, and when there is abuse or loss, it just gets a little more complicated emotionally, hormonally, and otherwise. And then, like you said, all the things in the environment that are predatory, and when you're made to feel less than at the core of who you are, it can make you vulnerable. It can make you, like you said, susceptible to fill in that pain, in that wound with something that soothes the pain. So that's very common, and I'm trying to, like, take away the judgment in that for most people. Sometimes we see it expressed in men, in violence, and where it's that they're just in fight or flight all the time, kind of scared, and then, you're like this, right? So it's not that you're a violent person, it's that this was all the things that you said built up to a moment, and, I'm trying to understand and help other people understand how you can navigate and be able to step back and be able to reclaim yourself and your life and your bodily autonomy, your mental autonomy, and your career. And the fact that you've done it and come here today and radiate this is just, I wish I had a better word than inspiring. Um, so maybe we can figure out what to edit that word into my mouth. But
You know what it is?
really
It's just
celebratory. Yeah. I
it's
mean,
God. for me. It's the experiences that I went through that no human being could have done. It had to be like outside forces, the ancestors, angel, whatever. I'm a living testimony. I'm not even saying, oh, become a Jew, become a Christian, become a Buddhist. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying that it is something outside of me that allows me to keep going or to see through someone or understand someone. So I don't get angry. First thing I'm thinking is, what happened with you? Why are you reacting this way? So I don't really, people that go around like, the saying, hurt people. Yeah, I understand that and everything. That is definitely true. But sometimes you just want to. You make a decision, you make a choice. You know what I mean? But that's what makes me like sustain. Like that's what keeps me sustained. That's what keeps me happy and grounded. Just knowing that I do magic, you know?
Yeah, you do. That's awesome. So I can't believe we're coming up close on time, and I wanted to see about any like words of advice, I guess, you could give to young folks. And I don't want to be so focused on the fact that we're female, but because I don't get a lot of female guests on the show, I would love if you could kind of address, you know, women and girls or those who identify as female, because I think, especially with what's going on right now, there's an awakening of self, and there's a lot of guilt and shame. There's a lot of judgment that people are, quite frankly, dealing with sometimes years after the fact. Um, and I don't just mean the predatory stuff, but even microaggressions, all the things that build up that make you feel less than for whatever that is. And you've pushed through all of that and you're here holding your court. What would you say to some folks just kind of still struggling? And I know for you, religion has been a tenet, but I'm wondering if we can focus it with language that's more about like, what is it that you tell yourself? You know? What is it that you said, like, your when you repeated what your mom had said to you? You know, what is it that you tell yourself to get through, to keep going?
Oh, wow. You really want to know? It's. I always say that nobody's gonna jump into my coffin with me, not even my children.
It's
You
real, hun.
start thinking
It's
like
real.
that,
I want what's real.
and that's what keeps me going. I can't let you affect me. You
Yeah.
are doing nothing to me past this moment or for me, or you know what I mean.
Right.
So that's the
No.
really. I mean, even if it's your parent, it could be school. Everybody get institutionalized, and you're being told how to think, what to accept, how to feel, and once you realize all those people telling you all of that is not, they're not going anywhere with you. At the end of the day, you start to realize that once you start living for yourself, really, and how you feel, it sounds really selfish, but once you start living for yourself and how you feel and feel how, and feel whatever you feel, I mean, as long as it's not nothing negative, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like that's the breakthrough that everybody needs. I think everybody's living for people outside of themselves. That's why you hate somebody for how they look or who they love so.
Exactly. That's beautifully well said, and that's exactly it. Radical self-love is like a theme of a whole other show we did, right? And it sounds kinda corny, but what does that mean? It means exactly what you said. Loving yourself for who you are, knowing what that means, living for your best self within yourself, and not what kind of car you drive or what you look like or what brands you wear or who you hang out with. And it's really hard not to get caught up in that when those are the initial items that supposedly signal success, right? When the so that's why I think it's really important that people who are kinda come through the journey talk about that, because that's where you lose yourself in the journey, right? And especially for younger folks that especially with the world being a little different right now, where we have the world of gloom and doom in our pocket, right? Like, we didn't in my time, we didn't have a lot of access to the ills of the world unless you read a newspaper, and I don't know a lot of teenagers who wanted to do that, or your parents watch, like, the nightly news at a certain time. And so, you're just like, everything is more and more and more in your face. And some of the basic things like, who are you? What do you wanna stand for? What do you wanna do on this earth in your time? Those basic questions get skipped over and they almost get deprioritized. And when you have trauma, like we said, you can start to think that you don't matter. So yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. So I guess with that, anything else you wanna share? And I just wanna thank you so much for being so open and vulnerable here and so awesome. And, if there's anything else you wanna share, the other thing is I didn't get to warn you before we started, so no pressure to do this and we can cut this out. But we sometimes have folks do a little freestyle at the end, and I forgot to ask you if you wanted to do that.
Okay.
If you're not up for it, don't worry about it. I just wanted
No,
to
that's
put it.
fine. That's fine. That's fine. Everybody have them 12 o'clock. You can ask them about that. Moving like the anthem on the clock. Run around and you still can't reach the top. So you're telling me I'm acting like an idiot. You give me, you don't me feel I won't take that. Father God tell myself to tell you that. I am give me dreams. I mean I live that. That's it.
Thank you so much. I love it. I love it. I love it. I thank you. I really wish you all good things. Hopefully, we will be, connecting again really soon, and I just wish you just all the best in health and wealth and all in between.
Thank you for having me. Have a blessed day.
You too.
Bye, everybody.
At the Natanya Experience, we believe we can all rise above challenges, heal, and shine together. And so, we give big thanks to our amazing partners who share our vision of universal health and happiness.